I really got lucky. Thanks to Nutrify, even that you sometimes get an opportunity to sit with all the decision makers in a panel, and each one of them bring a plethora of experience, knowledge, and expertise to the conversation that we're going to have today. So continuing with what I was talking about in supply chain, I would like to highlight a few things, right? And why I talk about a few decades versus now is that what has significantly changed in the era of digital, in the era of e-commerce, or in the era of data-led decision making is that today the growth is no longer driven by just formulations. It's no longer driven by just great R&D. It is driven by disruption in supply chain distribution and at the end of the day, the contribution margin at a P&L level, but the repeat purchase at a customer level. And therefore, the intelligence in supply chain today is one of the critical aspects of growth. And that is exactly what we're going to focus on. The 45 minutes that we have, we're going to ensure that it becomes not only very educative, very deliberative, but also very insightful. So a lot of you can take back information and intelligence as to what these leaders who are sitting here, who are extremely coveted in their own segments and their own product portfolio, are driving business and driving growth by keeping in mind what today matters the most. So I know we got a quick introduction, but let me also take this moment to spend about 30 seconds, and the mics are right there. So if you guys can just pass on, and because starting with you, give us a little bit of a 30-second overview about your background. So we go around the first session to talk a little bit about your background so the audience has more familiarity with what you guys are doing. And then we are going to dive into the questions and try and make it as informative and as engaging as a session. So thank you so much for being with us today. A big round of applause to the panel here before we get started.
Thank you and good afternoon. So I'm Vikas Bansi. I'm the business director at Himalaya Wellness Company, where I lead the entire healthcare vertical that comprises of pharmaceutical business and the OTC business, which we call it as OTX. Started my career with FMCG, moved on to consumer healthcare, nutraceutical, and then into pharma, and now OTC and pharma. So an FMCG guy, started selling cigarettes for the first 3 years, then selling healthcare for the next 20 to balance the karmic cycle. That's how I would look at it. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Vikas, and welcome to the panel, Mansi.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for the opportunity to be part of this panel to Nutrify. I'm really looking forward to be with the experts. So I have a fancy designation of a Chief Operating Officer, but I had the sales, marketing, and capability at Dr. Reddy's and Nestle Health Science, which is a joint venture between Dr. Reddy's and Nestle. With about 2 decades of experience, 10 in P&G in consumer space, and 8 in Nestle with marketing of consumer brands, and the last 2.5, 3 years in the consumer health and nutraceutical space. Looking forward to a great discussion. Thank you.
Welcome, Mansi. Paddy.
Thank you. Good afternoon, and thanks for having me. Sriram Padmanabhan, industry calls me as Paddy. FMCG guy. Right now, I take care of the healthcare business in Dabur. It spans FMCG, Ayurveda, and Derma. So think Chyawanprash, think Ayurvedic medicines, think skin. So that portfolio. And I look after both sales and marketing for the business. Thank you.
Welcome, Paddy.
My name is Siddharth Vachaspati. I spent almost 30 years, and I'm a good pedigree of doing FMCG brands, working for Unilever, Gillette, Procter & Gamble. I've been general manager, CEO for brands like Vicks in India, working for Procter & Gamble. I have also done pharmaceutical brands for a Merck legacy business that we acquired in P&G, leading brands like Neurobion, Evion, 7Cs, etc. And off late, I'm mentoring beauty space businesses in India. I do mentoring for startups, and I'm part of a private equity, and I'm supporting them. But it's a pleasure having folks on board. I have heard these people on newspapers and magazines and seeing them all together. Thank you so much, Amit.
Thank you, Sid. Borna?
Hello, my name is Borna Bandari. I head the Symbiotica Middle East division. my background is in law, and I moved to Dubai about 4 years ago to start Symbiotica out there. We went live, I would say, 3.5 years ago, and yeah, it's been great.
Thank you, Borna. Given that you have the mic, and for the knowledge of the audience, because we're talking about supply chain and its importance in operations, when does supply chain stop being just an operations vehicle and become a business builder? When does supply chain stop being just a part of operations and actually become an important element of building a business?
I think from the very beginning, I think you can. I think that supply chain is really the wave of the future. I think the global expansion of the companies, everything you were talking about earlier with your slides, it's so important now. And the way people build out the companies, the partnerships, so forth. Yeah, I think it's very important.
Thank you so much, Borna. Sid, can I ask you your take?
Okay. So if you look at the last maybe 1.5, 2 million jobs that have come in India, are largely led by logistics innovations.
Absolutely.
Amazon, Flipkart, Blinkit, Zomato, you name the business, Swiggy, Snabbit, they're all logistical solutions to existing consumer need. So if you look at what has happened in India in terms of the GDP turnaround or the money moving across pockets, government getting more taxes, has largely been led by logistics. And at this stage, as I talk, probably logistics is the legal leading chassis across all the functions. It's not just a service provider anymore, but is actually driving the cases.
That's so beautifully put, and and that's exactly what's happened. You've taken old methods and they've created new discipline. Like, who now knew that you could just order your maid online and they will come and bring efficiency to the system, right? Which used to be a nightmare. So
logistical efficiency,
absolutely.
Probably Nutraceutical will also show it soon. But what has happened in the past 10 years in India is just excellence in logistics.
And supply chain.
That's it.
Absolutely. Beautifully put. Paddy?
I think especially in healthcare, I would say it's the most important factor because health is trust, and trust you earn by consistency. And you can only drive consistency if you have a supply chain which is able to deliver that time and again to the consumer. So whether a 70-year-old in Lucknow having Chyawanprash 30 years back and today, she shouldn't find any difference. And she finds that difference, then we have lost that trust. So it's extremely critical, especially in health.
Absolutely. And it must be, like, we're going to delve deeper into it, but you articulated something very important, that at least the quality of delivery cannot be compromised with growth, right? That is also super important. Mansi, your take on that?
Well, I believe actually in line with what you said, supply chain truly becomes a growth engine when it starts shaping demand. It starts creating demand versus just fulfillment of demand, which is the age-old definition of supply chain. Sure. And when it starts sitting in your strat as a key building block versus a cost center, that's when supply chain plays its role.
Beautifully said. The shift of fulfillment to demand creation is today's real nuance and moat of supply chain. And because I want you to answer that question, but also add the fact that you've been in Jubilant, you now are heading the entire pharma OTC division of Himalaya, which is a huge responsibility, and congratulations on that. What method to this madness have you seen transforming such a legacy business? So while I want you to answer the first part, but please continue with it, and then we kind of proceed from there.
Thanks. So I'll keep the first part simple. I think when supply chain becomes part of business growth, whether it comes to procurement, consistency of quality, or making availability and meeting availability versus just supply KPIs. I mean, what Mansi mentioned, traditionally supply chain has always been about supply KPIs. The shift from supply KPIs to being the center of business growth, I think when that happens is when supply chain actually takes over business growth, right? And that's how supply chain can contribute far more effectively than than in some companies where we still see it is still an SNOP or delivery KPI as a measure. So that's the first part of it. Now coming to the second part, how do we, when it comes to nutraceuticals or legacy businesses, how does supply chain actually transform and cut across? I think for me, it comes down to three parts, and it's maybe a mix of what all my co-panelists said. One, I think consistency is the name of the game. When you're scaling up, legacy brands, what's critical is your trust and your promise that you make to the consumer starts with procurement, right? So at Himalaya now we are at a stage where almost 95% of the herbs we procure, we follow sustainability. We go back to procurement. I mean, every herb can be tracked back to where the sourcing is, right? So it starts with procurement, sourcing, moves to quality, consistency, batch after batch. And the third part, which is, I would say, the most critical in these times, how is your brand able to deliver the new age demand, which is omnichannel?
Yes.
It's no longer about building a core supply chain as one, core operation team. It's about having a hub and spoke. You have tier one metros that require distribution expansion for general trade, for modern trade, but now you have e-com. I mean, e-com requires it in 48 hours. Quick com requires it in possibly 10, 20 minutes. Your tier two and tier three towns, your distributors require credit. They require the same products that possibly metro towns are consuming. So I think the third part today stands more relevant than anything else is how does your brand deliver consistently to channels across? Because India is no longer just, I mean, yes, it's one country, but it's a multiple of mega states, and with mega channels and omni channels, it gets even more tougher for a brand to consistently deliver on its promise.
Absolutely.
That's how we've kind of managed. And I worked with different organizations, spent about a decade at Abbott Nutrition. We moved from global to domestic operations, and that is the one single promise that we always delivered on. That whether it's when you're building and scaling up legacy brands, you have to stay true to these three things: procurement, consistency, and making your brand omni-channel available.
I think that's a fantastic thing you say, right? From the legacy to today's new age disruption is about consistency, quality, and then ensuring that a subcontinent like India, which is known for its diversity, not just in culture, but also in consumption, how do you keep meeting that, right? With that, Paddy, I want to come to you, right? Dabur, again, a legacy brand. You are overlooking all the different spectrums, and you've seen there is a new wave of information supply, which was not the case about 3 decades back. You had retail, you supplied, you got the data. Today you have to make so much decision based on the information that you're getting. How do you build discipline? How do you keep up with that? And how do you even deal when there are challenges in the system between general and modern trade? So if you can just throw some light on that, I think our audience is going to learn a lot.
Information with respect to supply.
Information to respect to supply, the omni-channel that Vikas talked about, your modern and general trade, because these were all not the case few years back. And you guys had a discipline that you built over 100 years. And now you have to change all of that. How do you manage that?
Yeah. So I think good question. So I think the most important aspect in this is to keep the shopper in mind. Every channel has a different price pack architecture. So we could be selling a 10 rupee sachet in Itonja, which is 100 kilometers from Lucknow.
Yeah.
But at the same time, we could be upselling that product in omni-channel, and especially in emerging channels like quick com, what works in GT doesn't work in quick com.
Yes.
Both from a delivery time perspective, and also what we realize is what we call the primary packaging. So we need to sort of get into that, because what works for a pharmacy in a smaller town, the way he will stock keep the products is very different to how the dark stores they operate. So yes, we are evolving as we are sort of going ahead. The other thing that, of course, we do is, and which is sort of critical for us, is keeping the manufacturing closer to the fulfillment. Sort of traditionally, we used to have sort of one big manufacturing base, which is sort of supplying all across India. But depending on, of course, the shelf life of the product, and today consumers demand fresh, so it is no more that, if your product is 4 months old and it has taken its time across the logistics and supply chain, they may not accept it. So how do you sort of distribute your manufacturing between own and third party, and also sort of, keep the supply chain agile in a way, because we, like, in my division, there are more than 800 SKUs. So how to manage those 800 SKUs across different channel partners. So that is something that we have really evolved very strongly over a period of time.
I think that's amazing, because there, I think the way you're looking at data and information and making decisions, because so many SKUs, how to plan that from a pharmacy versus your quick commerce versus your, general trade is a task. And I think that with that evolution, that knowledge also comes your next level of planning. And Siddharth, aka Sid, which is what we all lovingly call you, you have the most interesting insights that I want you to share. You've been with the large giants, humongous, like 200-year-old company, 100-year-old company, such legacy systems. And then you left all of that to decide to work with startups and private equity. Tell me, what were the learnings there, or the unlearnings that you've taken to the new age innovative startups, private label brands that you're working on? Because your unlearnings and learnings must have been the reason why you decided to take on to this new leap. And I would love all of us to learn from that.
Interesting. So Unilever today, as I talk, any Unilever product is available in Indian terms, almost 85 lakh stores. Look at Procter & Gamble, available in at least 60 lakh stores nationally. And that's a huge number. It's almost the same as the global store universe.
That's right.
So whatever a Unilever product or P&G product is available in, and I spent almost 20 years in P&G. My last role was country sales head. So I have been closer to how this operates. There's a chassis that has been built over a period of these 20, 30 years, where folks like Dabur, Jubilant, Cipla have mastered, and the product is available last mile. What I tell the new age startups, and it is also going to be applicable for a lot of people sitting here who are nutraceutical founders. We chase the mirage of reaching a particular number, whether it is stores, whether it is being available in a Blinkit, being available in a Amazon, getting listed in a Instamart is eureka for most of our founders. Whereas the core is not getting listed, core is not being there, core is replenishing. So the business does not comes by getting distribution done. Business comes by ensuring that replenishment is done, which is an outcome of the velocity of the store, which is an outcome of the efforts that are put by the marketing team, the other people. But what is very critical is, and for example, I'll just maybe add this point important for founders. 100 productive stores where you are replenishing is better than 5,000 inactive or one-time listed stores. You're wasting your time. Every sales call that you make to your rep or whoever, do a back of envelope calculation. It will be around 300 to 400 rupees per call. And you don't realize how much money are you wasting, and then eventually cursing and changing the sales representative or the sales officer or the ASM, saying ki dhanda nahi aa raha hai. But the truth is that the velocity of the product or the turnover of the product is not happening. The business will deliver, India will deliver only when you are ensuring enough velocity is there and you are giving adequate replenishment to the store.
You said something so beautiful, and that's something we talk about all the time. There's something called as micro availability, and it goes into the fundamentals of economics. Mass versus micro, and they say micro eats macro for breakfast, right? And there's a reason to it. You rather get a small market, own it, lead it than go broad and then kill it. Because then you're creating sometimes competition you were not even ready for, or distribution, or economics that you were not ready for, and that's why a lot of startups die. And with that, I want to come to you, Borna, and I want to come to you, Mansi, after that. Borna, amongst all these guys who've been in the very traditional, large-scale industries, Symbiotica is a new age brand, right? I have been consuming it for years. You guys disrupted the whole liposmal format, and I know that you being one of the important part of the founding team, your founder, they're all about what the consumers want. And you guys were a digital first brand. They were all retail first brands. Tell me what led Symbiotica to be such a success in US. How did you stay true to what Sid was saying? The micro part, you focused on D2C, you focused on digital first, and then build to the next level, because that's going to be very interesting for the audience here, because you come the other way. You come from US to the rest of the world, and then you started, UAE and so on. So if you can share some insights.
Yeah. Just hearing all of their answers, I can tell it's so much great input, and it's very different than the way Symbiotica started. I think it really was just very organic. With my business partner, Shervin. His page, he already had a following for nutrition and health stuff a little bit before the whole boom happened, where everybody's a health influencer and everything now. So he had a kind of cult following, and he went to Iceland and just found an algae farm that he fell in love with, and he could make a great omega from, and started like that. And it all happened organically. And I think now, because we live in the age of social media, we all know how important social media is.
True.
And what it took was some people who are like the key opinion leaders, the KOLs, and these like Gary Brecka and those kind of people, they like the product, they start talking about it, and that just trickled down, and we saw it just really take over on social media. So I think that was the key. And when we brought it to the GCC, I know you didn't ask this, but I'm going to just touch on it real quick. When we brought it to the GCC, we wanted to keep doing it organically like that as well. So we didn't go with the big distributor. We didn't even want to go into all the big pharmacies and everything right away. We wanted it to really be something that the people wanted, and we wanted to be in certain stores, certain cafes, and now we're really seeing the momentum pick up.
And this is something for the audience, right? And before I come to Mansi, because this is going to be a very interesting question. Think about how reverse engineering happens. Before you would build a product, take to the market, consumer loves it or doesn't like it, gives you feedback, you start innovating, and now you're basically creating content. The consumers are consuming that content and letting you know in advance that there is demand for something like this, and you're building the product. So you don't really have to work then towards convincing the consumer that the product has need, because that is already established. And that's how reverse engineering in today's day and science has become so important, is why, Mansi, I'm going to come to you. Nestle and Dr. Reddy's, who would have thought, right? Nestle is going all out making acquisitions, because today it's all about capturing that content and that new age distribution supply chain, because you don't want to build it. You're like, somebody's doing it well, why should I do it? Acquire and grow, but not compromise on innovation. And this intersection of pharma and nutra that you're sitting in, how are you seeing this evolution? Because it's tough, and that's why I think they chose a woman, the 2 X chromosomes, right? You balance both. So tell us, how does that balance look like today? Or there is one?
Yes, you're right. I mean, 3 years, 4 years down, if somebody would have said, who would have thought a unique deal like this between a pharma giant and a FMCG giant, it wouldn't have sounded sensible. But here we are, 2 years into the company. I don't think we're even striving for balance. We're not. We are wanting to see what are the best practices in both the industries that we can learn from each of the parent company, which is Nestle globally and Dr. Reddy's in India. So when it comes to meeting consumer demand or patient therapy need, essentially you're solving a problem.
Yeah.
Right. That problem could be for a patient in the ICU, or it could be a hydration drink for out in the spots, out in the sun person.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So what is really fundamental is how we think about quality.
Yeah.
And I think that is what tied both these companies together in the first place, because quality is in the DNA of the companies, right? It's some people say that between scale and quality, what would you choose? And I don't think any of us have ever thought of it as a choice, because scale or no scale, quality is absolutely no compromise, zero deviations.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where both the companies vouch for, and each of the products that we have at Dr. Reddy's and Nestle Health Science, the single mandate that we have is to ensure 100% quality standards, sometimes, with all due respect, stricter than even the quality standards that are demanded by Indian regulatories, to ensure that our patient experience, our consumer repeats are higher, and the patient experience is good in terms of the efficacy of the product. So I think quality is what combines these two entities,
Mm-hmm.
and the focus on striving for it in a consistent, reliable manner at scale,
Yeah.
is what we do for a living.
I think you said it so beautifully, that no matter where disruption goes, no matter how fancy products get, no matter what the consumer wants, at the end of the day, repeat only comes from quality. They will buy something once, but if Symbiotica or Nestle or Dr. Reddy's was not a fantastic product, they wouldn't buy it again. And with that, I want to come to you, Vikas, because I have grown up on Himalaya's neem face wash. My mom, who's a surgeon, retired now, till date uses it, right? It's like a family thing. Ashwagandha, Shilajit has become very sexy today, but you guys pretty much created it. But with so many of them trying it, how are you managing consistency between niche versus mass, digital versus growth? Like, where is that decision-making intersection happening, where sometimes you have to be like, you're under pressure, you have to try. And you and I have spoken about a brand I'm not going to talk about, that these guys are eating into, but where does the buck stop? Where do you make the decision? We won't go beyond this, because ethos, integrity, quality is paramount.
Great question again. So I think for us, the choice has been pretty simple, right? And it is always about getting the consistency right,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, we are present in more than 106 countries.
Mm-hmm.
All India, about a decade and a half, or maybe a decade ago, distribution was a moat in itself, right? You had these large legacy organizations that could make the product available in a few million stores, and that was in strength.
Mm-hmm.
Today, you have quick commerce delivering 20,000 plus codes there.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So it's no longer as big a strength as it used to be, and we are pretty clear on that. Whether it's 20,000 pin codes or whether it is 25 lakh stores,
Mm-hmm.
for us the choice is, like I mentioned, every herb that we procure, right? When it sits on the shelf, whether as a single herb or as a formulation, as long as we can trace it back completely
Mm-hmm.
from where we procured it, as long as our practices are sustainable, because today consumers are, courtesy social media, courtesy so much of digital info, consumer and shopper is very, very aware
Yeah.
of which company, what brand, who's offering what.
Yeah.
You can no longer choose to take a shortcut and compromise, right? I mean, it's like we just discussed, it's never a choice between quality, consistency, and scale, or expanding to
Yeah.
more number of countries or more number of outlets.
Yeah.
You, as a herbal wellness brand,
Mm-hmm.
we stay true to our ethos,
Mm-hmm.
and that's hardly been a matter of choice. It's a matter of principle,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what really differentiates us. And hence the neem face wash that was consumed, from one generation to
Yeah,
the other.
yeah.
The product, the brand, the offering is absolutely the same. Yes, we may have premiumized a few offerings because there are now a lot of D2C brands looking at evolving market needs.
Mm-hmm.
but what we offer at the core
Mhm.
is absolutely in line with what our core promise is.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is happiness in every heart, wellness in every home. That's
Yeah.
our core mantra.
Yeah.
And that's how we've been, successful for so many. I think 97th year running.
Yeah, exactly. So 97 years. So, with that, I want to, come to you, Paddy. Dabur has made a lot of acquisitions in the recent past. Very young brands focusing on certain diaspora. How are you integrating that with the old school Dabur SKUs and then this portfolio? Has the strategy of building, distributing, and managing changed? And what learnings is it giving you to diversify the portfolio for the global expansion? Because we work with your UK team, your Egypt team, and all is very different than what the Indian ethos is or what the US ethos is. So how are you managing that? Because you sit in such a paramount position. Like I asked Vikas, for you, where does the buck stop? Where do you make the decision that this is not ready for India? We are not going to take this because there must be pressure because you want expansion. So how do you manage that?
So in the M&A discussion, so it is not just about product market fit for us. In the decision table, it's not just people like me from the business side, but we also have people from R&D in the M&A table.
Very important, okay.
Because we would like to know what we are buying, and we just don't stop at what the other party has to say, but we independently go and validate through analysis and even through some preclinicals, especially if the valuation is high. So we ensure that what we are buying passes our standards of manufacturing and quality. And especially because, especially if it comes to anything to do with health,
Yeah.
the claims are substantiated and not just go by what a company has to say. So I think that's one part. Now, whether suitable for India or not, I think now those lines have blurred. So in many vectors, actually, I would say India is ahead of many other countries in terms of expectations of the consumer. Social media has, gone are the days that my aspirational window is only to a certain metro. Now my aspirational window is what is happening in Europe and what is happening in US. So if earlier the gap was 10 years, now it's probably a couple of months at best.
Right.
And in fact, now if you see the rise of the natural, it's India which has been the birth of ashwagandha, which is now being taken over in West.
Yes.
Or curcumin or turmeric. So now it's the other way around.
Yes.
That the science is rediscovering what the ancient wisdom of India has. So I think for us, I think what we look is more product market fit. If it is there, then we'll go for it.
No, I think you said so beautiful, and I want to say something on what you just shared. I was reading this beautiful article where they said, how India's knowledge has become the money-making proposition for the world because Indians are not so good at making money, right? Yoga is a $72 billion industry in the US, including puppy yoga and beer yoga. Look at just that, right? They just figured out what will work and they just sell it. Today, what we've learned as Kapalbhati, people are saying vagus nerve reconciliation method. I'm like, okay, means it comes from us. But that's the thing, sometimes because you talked about the line blurring and especially because West has always become the validation point for East, something has to change. And that's what I want to bring you, Sid. All these big acquisitions that is happening, whether the acquisition of Poppy, the acquisition of Oli, now Groons. 4 years, a company is valued at 1.6 billion by Unilever, the acquisition happens. Why don't we have those stories from India? What do you think Indian startups are still not getting right that we are struggling with, which someone like you, because you sit in that intersection, can throw some light because there is a big change happening in the West. They're monetizing from our knowledge. They're also making the biggest exits. But a lot of Groon's portfolio is Indian, what you call it, the entire portfolio has Indian methods to it. Like a lot of it is actually R&D from India. So tell me, what is that we're not, what would you give guidance to the people who are in the startup?
Maybe a couple of
Be brutally
white
honest.
hair, gray hair advice. So number one, India has many Indias.
Mm-hmm.
A consumer sitting in Raurkela is not the same that is sitting in Bombay.
Mm-hmm.
Within Mumbai, a consumer sitting in Dharavi who is accessing the same Amazon feed
Mm-hmm.
is not the same sitting in Kolaba. They're extreme ends.
Mm-hmm.
So firstly, India cannot be treated in the same manner. When you try to bring in a brand from a global portfolio or a global stable, you see something and you just want to copy paste and bring the model in India. It does not work.
Mm-hmm.
Everything, whether you bring in a brand from outside, being a multinational like Mansi or me, or multinational like acquisitions being done by Dabur Himalaya, also bringing a brand from the global team does not work in India.
Mm-hmm.
The product has to be Indianized.
Mm-hmm.
It has to address the need of Indian consumers.
Yes.
The copies, the product, the packaging has to work the way Indian consumers like.
Mm-hmm.
I used to run a business in PNG, which was a dedicated business unit of covering 25,000 stores nationally.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to import products that were available outside in India. And I had a separate chassis. I used to import it and sell it in India through that business unit.
Mm-hmm.
And wow, suction. Today, you go to a store in Gafar or here, Crawford, the kind of business these imported brands or imported, whether it is nutraceutical or not,
Mm-hmm.
was a whoppering business some 15 years back. It's
Mm-hmm.
not the same case now.
Mm-hmm.
Because the expectations of a consumer has changed. So any nutraceutical founder
Mm-hmm.
who's trying to imitate, copy a product, or even forging into a relationship, of course can have a success. But then the success would be meter if the product is Indianized,
Yep.
thought through the consumer.
More than the products that are built here. But you know what outbeats them is Nidhi's grandma's hair oil. That one SKU actually beats a lot of international brands, and they don't even do much marketing because the quality is fantastic and they understood hair fall is a problem, early alopecia is a problem in India, and solve it the Indian way. So sometimes I think the finer nuances, whenever we've tried to copy too much of what the Western has and we try to bring it to India, people are smart, even though they buy the Western products. Like Groon's has 1.6 million searches online, and people are telling us, bring that brand to India. Because everybody's like, oh, $1.2 billion, kuch to kiya hoga, yaar, something is great. And same thing like Symbiotica, like we're trying to bring them to India because there is insane amount of demand because people look at US listings and they're like, oh, this sells so well, but the product is fantastic. So, Borna, you're here. This is one of the largest consumer market, right? What are your thoughts of how you would like to diversify in different geographies and prioritize? Yes, for Borna, prioritize when it comes to Symbiotica. Like, what was those decision-making points that made you guys decide that you want to enter UAE? And what would be those decision-making points that will make you decide that you want to enter in India? So how are you looking at that strategy and growth?
I think that, when we looked at the UAE and we looked at the market, we found it to be very similar to the US market, surprisingly. We didn't see it as a huge, huge jump or a huge difference.
Mm-hmm.
There's some minor things here and there, D3 deficiencies, certain things here and there. But maybe it's because it's such a large expat community that we didn't see it to be too different.
Mm-hmm.
So there wasn't a huge leap there. I know the same applied for Canada, the same applied for Australia. Right about the regulatory in Australia,
Yeah,
that was a big thing.
Yeah.
We didn't know about the regulatory in the GCC before we came in, but we learned that as we went. With India, I don't know. I think that, like you said, the world's changing. The world's changing. So now it's not like the old days. Now when something gets popular somewhere, it gets popular quickly all over.
Yes.
It's a changing world. So yeah, I think it would be fun. It's exciting to go into a new market.
I know I pushed you to come here. What has been like, just because I know we're gonna keep on time, what has been your experience coming to India? Because
amazing. We've just been busy with the conference this time, but I cannot wait to come back.
Oh, a big round of applause to that because I pushed him to come and this is his first time. With that, I want to kind of, because we have about 2 minutes and I want to use 30 seconds for each one of you before we summarize. Because important role, important times, but there is also a big cluster of the Gen Z and Gen Alpha that is dictating the future of brand and supply chain. How are you using technology and data to find balance in what you guys are building so you stay relevant?
I think the basic product, I mean, the core of it remains the same. And I'll give an example, ashwagandha. Right? The same ashwagandha for someone who's in his 40s can be used for sleep. The same ashwagandha for a Gen Z would be more relevant on anger, irritation, and mood swings. And the same ashwagandha for someone who's in 30s and 40s, especially women, multitasking always, fatigue. Now, it's about how good and effective your marketing, positioning, and storytelling is. Because when you're dealing with herbal and wellness brands, you will always have more than 2 or 3 benefits for every herb, right? So it's not about changing your entire proposition or changing your entire, because if you ended up launching exclusive products only for a particular class, remember Gen Z also switches out very quickly, right? As quickly as they come in. So it's about how, as marketeers, as manufacturers, or as supply chain leads, how do we keep in mind that there is a basic core offering, and how do you tailor it, whether it is Gen Z, whether it is women, whether you have, and today even the geriatric population for that matter is huge in India,
Absolutely.
right? Very few people talk about it because it's not as sexy as the Gen Z talk, but there is an offering there as well. I mean, whether you talk about aging in a healthy manner and cellular, I mean, there is so much. So I think we do a lot of social listening. Like I said, being present across multi countries, you get insights. What was 3-4 years, maybe a decade back, west to east, is now 3-4 months.
That's
so
right.
we do a lot of social listening, keep our core offering the same, and remain very, very relevant to different, TGs through our marketing, positioning, and storytelling.
That's amazing. And because you talked about geriatric, menopause, perimenopause, things after 40, which were very taboo and not talked about. And Mansi, you're in the science and you're in the research side, right? That's why this whole amalgamation was created. I invested in a brand about 6 years back, and everybody said I was mad, out of my family office, called MIDI Health out of US. She was disrupting the women's perimenopause and menopause space. They just got valued at $1.3 billion. And I had one of my biggest exits in life. So as someone leading this segment, as the geriatric, the postnatal, the menopause, the perimenopause, the women-focused segment is evolving at such a rapid pace, how are you guys using data and intelligence in this new operating model where you're heading to create innovation, to create products around that? If you can share something.
Sure, and congratulations on the exit.
Thank you.
So I think I'll probably be preaching to the choir here, but we start with the data right from conceptualization, right? We work with the likes of Nutrify AI, and we leverage the exact, for example, geriatric. We know that 150 million people fall in the geriatric space in India, and the urban premium geriatrics form about 20% of that now. Now, what would they use? So we, of course, like Vikas said, we have the fortune of learning from global because of Nestle already being present there with most of the portfolio. But we leverage a lot of AI tools to start from identifying white spaces, going on to consumer demand moments, occasions, need states, and then getting into really the whole commercial angle of willingness to pay and what would attract them, the proposition, and designing consumer personas. So whatever I just said, it's all digitalized, it's all AI, and it's all tech-based. We don't, gone are the days when we would do 3 months of research and field work and then another 6 months of reports and all of that. This is all done in a week's marathon workshop, and we come out with concepts, which of course we then go and validate with the consumers in the market to make sure we are not going wrong in important innovations.
That's fantastic. Mansi, you brought in such an important aspect, and I want to bring Paddy in on that. Paddy, AI, right? We have seen all of these dimensions where things become very fancy and everybody's talking about it. Before it was blockchain, today is AI. Is AI playing a role in innovation, data and intelligence, or even disrupting how you're looking at supply chain? Or has it become a blocker because of the lack of skill within the organization that it's innovating, but there's not the same skills to understand it? So where are you seeing that intersection? And are you experiencing it?
I was wondering why we have not used the word AI. It's been 40 minutes of the conversation and we have not yet used the term. So I think it's on. So we have been experimenting on both the front end and at the back end. Back end supply chain. So what used to be run through Excel sheets by a couple of planners who are looking at forecast from M1 to M12 and then sort of coordinating with the manufacturing and the sourcing team. We are seeing a lot of productivity gains by letting the sort of engine learn and sort of optimize the plan. So I think what it used to take a couple of days now happens in a couple of hours. But I would still caution that you cannot use AI as a crutch. Yes. You still need a layer of human intelligence because you need to understand if the demand is sort of outstripping somewhere and know better than the area sales manager to tell you as to whether he really feels it that it is moving or not. So yes, you use the data, but you don't blindly apply it. You still need the human intelligence because the years of experience have come in. On the front end side, I think what it has helped allow us is to experiment a lot at scale. So earlier, if there is a piece of communication and it has to go through, for example, a link test, what we used to do and sort of then go ahead. Now, a lot of times it has happened in my life that a green link is a disaster and a red link is a runaway success in the market. Now you can do small scale experimentation, you know what can work because there is nothing better than behavior to tell you.
Absolutely.
Consumers will always tell you, this is a great thing that you're launching, I will buy it.
Yes.
But they never used to come and buy. Now behavior and the gap between what they say and what they do is where the magic lies.
Yes.
And sort of experimentation at scale helps us dwindle that gap. And it helps us know what may work before we start investing at scale.
Absolutely. I think you said it brilliantly, and that's why I think we have to weave the AI part in. That at the end of the day, even the Amodai siblings, right, who are the founders of Claude says, we hire based on emotional intelligence because we can create everything artificially, right? So I'll take 30 seconds with you, Sid, and then 30 seconds with you, Borna, before we kind of close it. And if we are allowed, I'm not sure if we can take audience questions, but Sid, where is the fine line between emotional intelligence and AI?
See, AI can outperform AI anytime.
Yes.
And people who are emotionally intelligent will always remain better than people who are leveraging artificial intelligence. At the end of and because we are talking supply chain, a physical product reaching someone, getting manufactured at a place, meeting someone in their hands cannot be managed by AI. In our stream of topic, I don't think there's no space for AI. You can forecast it better. You can have some manufacturing errors which can improve 3 or 5% of productivity, but it is all actual AI.
Beautifully said. Borna, what are your thoughts? Are you guys using that in Symbiotica to come up with product innovations, or is it like, Sid and Paddy said, that is just about operational efficiency and supply chain efficiency, but it's not innovation efficiency?
Yeah, that's a good question. In all honesty, our main formulator, Shervin, is very anti-AI. So when it comes to formulations,
yes,
not at all. We keep it old school and we keep it as integrity, keep the integrity as much as we can. Are we using AI for operations and other things? Absolutely. Customer experience, everything like that, you have to, or else you're going to get left behind. So I agree. I think there's certain things that you don't
can't
replace with AI. You can't.
So we have a red big times up, and I just want to summarize this. First of all, a big round of applause to the amazing panelists who've taken their time out to share their insights with us. I'm just going to summarize with one thing. Efficiency is at the core of business, but culture is what drives it. So do not compromise on innovation and quality to get ahead of the curve because it's short-lived. While you do that, continue to disrupt way you reach your end consumers and choose micro over widespread because sometimes that's the best way to grow. Take the data, take the intelligence to make better decisions before you approach global market or even do a subcontinent like India. So thank you so much for listening in.